and really being serious about the health cycle, not just paying lip service. Don't say, oh, you need to meditate. Oh, you need to go on a walk. Oh, you need to get sun. No. Are you getting up at sunrise? Are you outside for 50, 60 minutes with the early morning sunrise? Are you going outside an hour a day with your bare foot and grounding? Do you have iris on your computer to stop blue light emissions? Are you eating a nutrient-dense, local seasonal diet that provides the right nutrients to your mitochondria? Because fat's 4 times more efficient than carbohydrates in producing ATP. Are you turning off all your lights at night? No LED lights. Are you using blue light blocking glasses? Is your circadian rhythm established? And you ask people this and you give them handouts on what to do. Are you hydrating? Are you doing any cold immersions and cold thermogenesis, etc., etc., etc.? Really emphasizing the principles of the health cycle before running in and jumping in with, hormones and peptides and exosomes and whatever else.
I have lots of questions, Dr. Hoffman. So the first question, that was a lot of information. So I'm sure people listening their brains are spinning. So are you saying that simply going outside, grounding in the sun and drinking enough water could be enough to heal someone's mitochondria?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying unless you establish yourself and weave yourself back into the threads of nature, your chances of turning chronic disease around is diminished. So we've got to really think about what it means to be involved, because what we've done is we've shut out the sun. It's all toxic and put on your sunscreens, and it's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. So, the principles of the health cycle require circadian biology and the principles of quantum biology in order to begin to reestablish electron flow through the mitochondria. And you've got to start there before you become heroic and then start using all your hormones and your peptides and everything else. If you take a patient off the street with chronic complex illness and you start throwing hormones and peptides and all the rest of it, you won't have as much success than if you ask them to establish themselves in the health cycle principles before they begin the signaling molecules. Robert Naveau's papers are essential in reading. He has one diagram like this, which is like everything. Here's your toxic load. Here's your metabolic shifting. Here's your signaling molecules you need to change. But here's the health cycle principle. Here's what you need to do to reestablish your connection to the most potent source of healing, which is the sun and the earth and the water. Because, water inside your cell membranes, you've got, there's 4 stages of water. And the 4th stage is this gel-like water called easy water, which separates into electrons and protons. And that gel-like water is what conducts the electrical flow through your mitochondria. And if you're not well hydrated and you don't have adequate easy water, you don't produce ATP, or you produce much limited ATP. So not just any water, it's like structured water, it's deuterium light water. There's a whole way that you induce easy water back into your mitochondrial system. There's about 20 things you can do to do that. It's not just drink more water. It's not that.
So I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, here's my question. There are millions, if not billions, of people in the world who live somewhere where it's going to be almost impossible to ground themselves, especially for an hour, right? So like if you live in New York City, if you live in Los Angeles, if you live in one of these places where there's not really a place to ground, what do you do in that case? Or if you live in Oklahoma City where I live, but you can't be outside for 60 minutes when the sun's coming up because you have to be at work, then what do you do in these situations?
So this is a question that's asked a lot. And depending on the mood of the practitioner who answers these questions, you get different answers. if you listen to Jack Kruse, have you heard of him? You want to? Jack Kruse is a neurosurgeon who has been probably the most vocal and the most advanced in his intellect in terms of advancing physics over biochemistry. Now, he's a neurosurgeon and he's highly experienced and he doesn't mince words. And he's a trip to listen to because when people ask that question, he says, "What do you want me to tell you?" The first principle of getting a person well, there's two things that I've noticed over my 30-year, 40-year career. You don't get better in the same environment that you got sick in, and you often don't get better with the same mental field that you got sick in the first place. Your internal dialogue and the story you tell yourself about who you think you are and what's happened to you is probably not true. So the first principle of getting well is, if you look at my handout on the health cycle, number one, relocate. And I'm serious about it. Jack Kruse get patients from Canada who are in 51 degrees northern latitude, no UVB for 9 months. No vitamin D, no UVB. Don't go outside, don't ground. And they phone them with MS and chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. And he just says, get out of Canada. And they go, but I can't. I got to go to work. He says, what do you want me to tell you? The treatment is relocate to where the sun is so you can plug your solar panel back into the cycles of life. So the first answer is relocate. The second answer is, if you can't relocate from your latitudes to more tropics where there's more sun and magnetism, more electrons and magnetism, then relocate from inner city to rural. Because if you're rural, there's less non-native EMFs. And then the third is, if you can't do that, then you've got to redesign your home so that your exposure to non-native EMFs is diminished. And that you need a building biologist for. So building biologist is one of the most essential people on your team. They come in and assess your electrical fields, your magnetic fields, your radio frequency fields, and your dirty electricity. And they tell you how much you're being exposed to in the way of these non-native, they're not made in nature, they're man-made EMFs. And he will then say, you need to, turn off your router at night. You need to make sure your cell phone is in airplane mode. You need to turn off the breaker switch behind your bed at night for the 2 plugs that fire up your bedside lights. You need to move your bed away from the fridge that's behind you from the kitchen because the magnetic field is too intense. Or you need to get rid of your metal frame bed and get rid of your box spring mattress because you're conducting 3 volts of energy through your body when you sleep at night, and it should be less than 100 millivolts. So a building biologist will give you indications of what you need to do to create a sound environment. But the first is relocate to where the tropics are, get out of the city, or redesign your home. Those are the first 3 principles.
Where do you find a building biologist? Is this something you can just Google? Building biologist in Oklahoma City? Do I just Google that?
Buildingbiology.com.
Oh.
Seriously.
Okay.
And you bring them in and they're part of your team. Your dentist is part of your team. Your nutritionist is part of your team. Your building biologist is part of your team. And if you've had trauma, then you need to work with some of the amygdala retraining and somatic experiencing people. They become part of your team. You need a bit of a team around you when you're processing chronic complex illness. It's very difficult to do it alone. And the people you work with have to be informed about all the possibilities of what you need to turn yourself around. It's complicated.
So let's say that you do live in Miami or the tropics or somewhere wonderful like that. You really think that somebody needs to be outside in the sun when it's rising for 60 minutes every day?
Yeah, so if you look at quantum biology and circadian biology, when you get out, I'm outside every morning at sunrise. 365 days of the year, but I do have a hot tub I can sit in if it's cold. But my hot tub faces the sunrise, so you watch the sunrise. As the sun rises, it starts activating certain receptors in your retinohypothalamic pathways, and which then activates something called POMC, POMC. POMC then activates all of these alpha MSH and beta MSH and endorphins and neuropeptides. And you literally turn on your metabolism, your hormones, your neurotransmitters by sun. That's true. You just read up all on the circadian biology. That's how it works. Then, so it's through the eyes, no sunglasses, no contact lenses. And if you've had cataracts and artificial lenses, you're pretty well screwed because they're not going to get sunlight through there. Not the rays, the amount of light that you need. Then you need to sun on your skin because melanin on your skin, developing a solar callus, a suntan, is what also goes back through the POMC pathway to regulate neurobiochemistry. So skin. And then your gut. Your gut is richly innervated with also melanin and POMC. So those are the three areas you need to get sun. So you need to get early morning sun to kickstart your neuropeptide and hormonal pathways. You make melatonin early morning sunrise. It gets stored and then comes out at night if you have 3 hours of darkness at night. But if you've got your LED lights on and you're watching TV, and like my patient this morning, I saw she's scrolling through her cell phone with Bluetooth on, cellular data on, and she's looking for meditation when she's being bombarded with non-native frequencies. That's not what you do, you know.
So if you have lenses in your eyes, like the lenses that they place in your eyes to help you see, then you're never going to get the correct sunlight.
You're not going to get the right signaling through the retinohypothalamic pathway back to the POMC in the hypothalamus and pituitary, no.
So then there's nothing you can do about that.
So people talk about that, and they try, and some people get the lenses taken out, and the people who manufacture lenses have been approached by Jack Kruse to try and get lenses made that do absorb light, and they've been disinterested to date, but he's still working on it.
That is interesting. Okay, so then if you have lenses in your eyes,
The only thing that people do is get them taken out, but then they have problems with accommodation and
so there, if you have lenses, then there would be no reason to go outside and look at the sun coming up.
No, you got your skin still. You're just not going to get the eyes. You can still be. Early morning sun creates infrared red and UVA. UVA rises around 10 o'clock. That actually prepares you for UVB at about 10 to 12. So UVA actually sets the stage for so if you have a lot of early morning sun on your skin, you actually don't burn as much because the UVA protects you from the UVB later on in the day. Now, we don't recommend you go burn yourself to a frazzle, because UVB does cause collagen to break down and elastin to break down, and it will age your skin. But you definitely, I just was in South Africa for 2 months. I was brown. And I've been back in Canada at -20 for 2 months, and I'm now back to my normal color. I can't wait to get back in the sun.